Today, we uncover the mystery behind the end of Christopher Abon Jimoh, who was journeying to his hometown but led to his end after a meeting with a soldier who he thought, but it wasn't who he thought. The night before Christopher Jimoh finally journeyed, the rain fell in sheets over Port Harcourt, thunder rolled with distant drum, lightning, and the fear was his wife, who had dreamt the night before that a uniformed man was standing at their gate. His face was hidden and his presence was chilling. She woke up and told her husband regarding his dream, but the husband, who was optimistic about his journey to his own town, It's Abasi in Akwa Ibom, was telling her to calm down, that this was just a dream and there's nothing to it. She had told him about how she was not in support of the journey that he was about to make, and how she felt it in her spirit that something bad was going to happen. But he was committed to making this journey and had told his wife that he had promised his people that he was going to meet them that very morning, and that he had given the car to a mechanic to fix his Toyota Yaris, and that he had promised his people that he was going to meet them regardless of how the road was. He promised his wife that he was going to keep her updated on his journey, and he promised that he was going to keep her informed about his whereabouts every minute. Preparing for the trip, he had given the wife some money to take care of their newly born kids, some baby clothes, and some delicate gold chain he had bought from a jeweler. He kissed his children goodbye, promising that he was going to get them all the goodies that he had promised to get them on his way to his hometown. On his way, after journeying for a couple of miles, that was when Christopher met the man that was going to lead to his end. Cobra Stephen had once been a respected soldier in the Nigerian army, but after a disciplinary hearing over missing weapons, he was dismissed quietly. No press release, no formal discharge, just silence. He kept his uniform, rifle, and his bitterness. He had kept it for years, even after being dismissed from service, and had been engaging in the road to collect money from people claiming that he was a soldier and was serving his country, unknowing to them that he was no longer in service but was dismissed after conducting illegal dealings with some slave civilians. He was in debt, facing gambling losses, unpaid rent, and a child he hadn't seen in years. He drove between towns using his uniform to intimidate and manipulate people, extorting money from them, promising them that he was serving his country and protecting his hometown, standing in the roadside demanding people to pay him sum of money as a reward for his service. He then spotted Christopher, a clean-cut, polite man driving a Toyota Yaris. The officer greeted Christopher warmly and asked him where he was heading to. He told him that he was going to his hometown, and the army man begged to follow him. He begged him. Christopher, who was reluctant about the request the army man Stephen had requested, but he had no choice because he was trying to be polite and felt like the man was of his service to his country and felt he needed a helping hand. Christopher hesitated, but the uniform spoke louder than the man. He unlocked the passenger door and welcomed him in wholeheartedly, not knowing what awaited him in the long run. The journey began with small talks. Stephen asked about Christopher's job, his family, and his car. Little did he know that Stephen, the soldier, was trying to get information about him and how he was going to extort from him. He noticed the iPhone on the dashboard, the gold necklace gift, and the wallet tucked behind the dash, the jet-shaped. Greedy stare in his eyes. He wondered how much money this man had and how much he could extort from him. He had told Christopher that he was heading to his hometown and that this was a way for him to finally meet his family that he has not met for a very long time. And he told him of how much help that Christopher was rendering from him. At the junction, after a long journey, they decided to take a stop to get some food to ease themselves before they begin the journey again. Christopher pulled over as he reached the glove department. Stephen pulled out a AK-47 rifle, telling him not to shout. He said codedly, "Just give me everything." Christopher tried to reason with him. "You don't have to do this," he said. "This is something that is not supposed to be done by a man in service." Stephen had already crossed the line. he had pulled the trigger. He was able to get Christopher to a nearby bush where he was able to ransack him and take all his belongings before he actually took time out to stab him continuously and before he finally shot him. Luckily for Christopher, a 13-year-old boy who was fetching firewood in the neighboring community had seen what had happened and had heard the gunshot and watched the man drag Christopher's body to a roadside ditch. Trembling, he ran to tell the vigilante group about what had happened, and his testimony would later become the pin to the whole case. Detective Mbong was assigned to the case, a former military intelligence officer turned police investigator. Mbong had served in the same military battalion as Stephen years ago. He remembered Stephen's fatal and ambitious and recklessness. Using the descriptions that the eyewitness had given, he was able to detect who Stephen was and who he had engaged with. Stephen found Christopher's phone, and in his room, the investigator found a notebook filled with cryptic entries, name, date, and location, hinting other crimes and extortion that he had made. They were able to finally catch Stephen after he had ran away with Christopher's car and belongings. His wife constantly kept on calling Christopher's phone, but yet nobody answered. She was bothered and she was worried, and she decided to call the nearby police station regarding this issue. She had been doing it, following up with the case, only for them to catch Stephen, the fake and retired soldier, in a nearby community living large. He was immediately disgraced and arrested, and a video of him being disgraced started circulating around social media. The courtroom in Uyo was packed. Journalists, activists, and military officers came to witness the proceedings and how he was being brought to justice. The prosecution presented forensic evidence and the testimony and the reports that was made by the eyewitness. Stephen's defense lawyer argued that his client suffered from PTSD and was mentally unstable, and he cited that Stephen's time in Borno, where he had witnessed horrifying events, but the court was unmoved. The crime was brutal and committed murder under false pretenses to be in the military authority. The court counted murder, armed robbery, and illegal possession of firearms, which led to death by hanging and 10 years imprisonment. In prison, Stephen began to write. He kept a journal where he confessed other crimes and reflected on it. He wrote about his time in Borno State, where he saw children used as human shield and soldiers lost their minds. He wrote about so many other things that had happened within his life. Christopher, Jimmy, devastated and determined, found Christopher's foundation and provided legal aid and counseling regarding his children. The family haven't suffered the loss that they have suffered, are still trying to recover from the crisis that has been made. The story of Christopher is more than a crime case. It's a reflection of a society and a broken system. Somewhere in Abasi, the people of the community can never seem to recover of what just happened to their own brother, Christopher Jimo.